Hello, my name is Jason Stirbinskis and I'm the CEO of Drake Resources. Drake has been working on a regional opportunity for some time now, and this has finally come to an exciting stage with the announcement of an LOI to formally explore the potential for near-term production by combining Drake's Joma assets and Vilhelmina Mineral, which holds similar assets nearby. While I'm on this page, I'll quickly remind you that Joma is about the midpoint of Norway, as you can see on the regional map displaying Drake's Nordic portfolio. We have two parcels about 10 kilometres apart either side of the town of Rørvik. To the east are the Joma permits and mine, and to the west are Drake's Jøsvik permits. What I would like to do first of all is explain what both groups bring to the table and why we're so excited about the immediate and long-term opportunities. Vilhelmina Mineral AB is a private company based in Stockholm. Vilhelmina have the Stekenjokk copper zinc mine and the Levi deposit some 1.5 kilometres north of the mine. Boliden ceased production at Stekenjokk in 1988 due to low metal prices after the production of 7 million tonne grading 1.15% copper and 3.5% zinc with additional gold and silver. There is an incredible amount of historical data available for both Stekenjokk and Levi, and fortunately much of it is concerned with unmined portions. One of our first steps will be to investigate the potential to convert this information into a JORC 2012 compliant resource. Drake has over 100 square kilometres of tenements in this copper zinc province. I've mentioned Joma as one of Drake's more interesting projects, and you might have seen our announcements concerning the potential for new copper zinc discoveries around Joma, particularly some exciting geophysics anomalies a few kilometres away. My public discussions to date have not focused on the residual mineralisation sitting within the Joma mine, but it's this residual, in conjunction with Stekenjokk and Levi, that makes for quite an interesting opportunity. Joma successfully produced 11.5 million tonne grading 1.49% copper and 1.45% zinc until 1998, and Jøsvik contributed some 500,000 tonne of ore near the end of this production episode. We've had great experiences with our partner, Joma Næringspark, which is the business arm of the local commune. You might recall that it was actually our partner that funded our last geophysics program in the region, a very generous offer which gives an indication of the working relationship and alignment of objectives. Vilhelmina Mineral and Drake's Joma and Jøsvik permits, when combined, might create a potential near-term production opportunity, and that's what this relationship is all about. Near-term production based on known mineralisation at the four sites and assuming a single processing facility. I'll talk more about the short-term horizon and long-term opportunities in my closing slides, but I'll briefly point out now that this is copper zinc province has numerous deposits, but no operating processing facility at the moment. And Drake has an interest in over 400 square kilometres of other copper zinc and copper gold prospective tenements across the Nordic region. You're hopefully starting to appreciate why this potential union makes sense from a technical perspective. We've also embraced this idea now because it brings forward the potential realisation of the value of the Joma residual. Our discussions within the investment community of recent also suggest this approach hits a lot of critical criteria in the current investment market. It's the right metals, it's the right address, it's potentially a quicker path to production, and modest capex given established infrastructure, etc. We are in the fortunate position of both projects having been in production before, and therefore we already have the costly underground drives in place and a strong understanding of the ore bodies and how they behave during mining and processing. Both operations use cut and fill mining and a conventional sequential copper zinc float circuit to produce copper and zinc concentrates. Concentrate was trucked to the port of Namsos and on to Hamburg or Finland. It was also trucked through Sweden to the Skellefteå smelter. Stekenjokk concentrate went to Boliden's smelters, the one you can see on the map, and the other is just over the Gulf in Finland. The projects are about 55 kilometres apart by road. As you'll see in the next few slides, both sites have infrastructure in place, and one of the real bonuses of this alliance is the synergies in the teams. Drake brings a publicly listed vehicle with experience across Australian and UK equity markets and strengths in feasibility and mine development, And Vilhelmina brings impressive local expertise and local networks across community, technical and funding. So we have a lot of aspects of mine development in our favour, and the combination potentially secures a critical mass of known and accessible mineralisation, leveraging a shared processing facility with the ongoing possibilities for additional mineralisation extensions and new discoveries. We are limited in what we can say publicly at the moment while we bring data up to JORC compliance, but the raison d'etre for the deal is near-term production, and so establishing a reliable resource is obviously a high priority for us. As mentioned, Joma has some infrastructure in place, and its best year the plant processed about 620,000 tonne of ore. The actual circuit has gone, but the buildings are in good condition. It's highly likely that the mineralisation will be accessed by existing tunnels, and these will need to be dewatered, but as I'm sure you can conclude, the setup compared to starting from scratch is much less, and we hope this extends to licensing procedures, overall costs and timing. Joma is about 15 kilometres from Rorvik, which is the municipality and commune headquarters, and given that the mine has only been closed for 16 years, we have strong regional practical knowledge of the mine remaining within the region. One of the first exercises for Vilhelmina is to review the enormous amount of data, wireframes and block models available to hopefully generate a 2012 JORC compliant resource. And we're not starting from scratch on this front, so it should not be too time consuming or costly, and we hope to have that for you soon. Stekenjokk has been idle for a decade longer than Joma, and so the condition of infrastructure on site is not of the standard of Joma, but of course the work pads and roads remain. The underground operation is flooded, and dewatering will be required if we are to use the original drives. Stekenjokk is more advanced than Joma in some aspects of investigation, and we believe an exploitation licence in 2014 or early 2015 might be achievable. The Grong-Stekenjokk area, of which the mines are a part, is one of the most important areas in the region for VMS copper-zinc deposits, and as you can see from the pink triangles, there are a number of material deposits in the region. The area we are focused on comprises the Coley Thrust Nape complex of the Caledonides. The Joma deposit, which you can hopefully see at roughly map centre, consists of an en echelon array of massive sulphide lenses between two major pillowed volcanics in an overturned limb of a major isoclinal fold. You'll recall the cover of this presentation has an image of the local structure, and you can see the fold in that image. Drake's Jøsvik prospects, which includes the Jøsvik mine, is to the west of Joma and is also stratigraphically inverted and sits on the Jøsvik nape. This is a richer ore body, but appears to be structurally constrained. There is, of course, the possibility of other occurrences in Drake's substantial Jøsvik and Joma footprints. The Stekenjokk deposit and nearby stratigraphically correlated Levy deposit are northeast of Joma and are the most intensely mineralised part of the Swedish section of the Nape complex. The bulk of the interesting ore is strata-bound massive sulphides, but there's also a disseminated pyrititic ore that is thought to be the stringer zone to the massive ore. We have a lot of historical data for Joma, including 173 surface drill holes and 2,809 underground drill holes, generating some 24,000 samples, which are in a Vulcan database from which we've generated the images on this slide. The main mineralised structure dips from surface in the east and north towards the west-southwest and flattening out at around 500 metres down. We see considerable variation in copper and zinc grades, which we can define as four separate facies. These are a fine-grained pyritic facet, a copper-rich massive sulphides, and copper-rich breccia mineralisation, and a zinc-rich medium to coarse-grained facet. There's another area called the southern zone, which has also been partially mined. It's not visible on these images, but has the potential to add considerable tonnages. As you can see on the map, there are two bodies of interest with Vilhelmina. Stekenjokk in the south did outcrop at its northern end, but has essentially been mined out for several kilometres, represented by the grey mass on the map. The remaining mineralisation is the southerly subhorizontal extension of the main body, and a displaced extension of the body visible in this cross-section that extends for 3 kilometres southwest. The first thing that is immediately apparent in the Stekenyok mineralisation is the higher zinc grades compared to Joma, and the presence of potentially economically interesting levels of gold, silver and lead. Levy occurs from surface at its southern tip and extends for about 3 kilometres to the north, with its deepest section about 600 metres deep, roughly in the middle of the 3 kilometre strike length. Now, I've attempted to articulate a path forward, but in reality this is a discovery exercise, and therefore timelines and activity is really dictated by what we find as we move along. The first exercise after the current episode of due diligence and bedding down the formal agreement is to launch into a scoping study, and this has two major themes. Firstly, to focus on understanding what we have at Joma and Stekenyok by reviewing and validating the enormous amount of data, and this includes updating resource statements if similar, so we can reveal what we potentially have in ground at these projects. The second line of investigation is the likely location of a common processing facility and intermine logistics. We've obviously already completed some financial modelling on hypothetical scenarios leading up to this point, including plant location and transport options, and we look forward to putting some robustness into our costing assumptions and similar, and ultimately generating reserves as part of a subsequent feasibility study. Of course, Drake's focus will be on progressing this opportunity, but we also plan to work on our other two high priority projects, those being our gold assets in Guinea and the regional opportunity presented to us stemming from our near-surface Grand Mura nickel-copper discovery in Sweden. Our Guinea field campaign has just completed, and we'll hopefully have something interesting to say about that shortly. As mentioned earlier, Drake has a large footprint in this highly prospective Coley Thrust complex, and the areas we hold are relatively underexplored. Our regional investigations to date have focused on the small area around Joma, and we've got some very exciting targets, such as Target 1 in this image, which I've spoken about previously in several announcements. Both Vilhelmina and Drake are aligned in that this deal is occurring if there is near-term production potential. But we can't help but consider what this might lead to. On an earlier slide I had a map that identified a number of copper-zinc deposits and decommissioned mines within the region, but at this point in time this region does not have a suitable processing facility. It's tempting to wonder how many of these might become of interest if we build a copper-zinc processing facility. Drake also has joint ventures concerning 366 kilometres squared of copper-zinc tenements across the Nordic region. It may very well turn out that this production opportunity we're exploring might be part of the evolution of these assets also. On a similar theme, the Nordic region, like much of the exploration industry, is ripe for meaningful consolidation and acquisition, and whilst we hope and expect that our immediate opportunity has the critical mass to justify a development scenario, we can see how additional assets, especially those with defined resources and near-term production capability, could add to the long-term success. But I think it's important that we aren't distracted by the longer-term opportunities. Now is the time to focus on understanding what we've got and how we can ensure we realise the value of the Joma and Stekenyok assets as quickly and efficiently as possible. We're very lucky to have past production at these sites and significant experience to build upon, and with all that information available to us, we already believe we have a good chance of near-term economically appealing production here, and that's our focus. Thanks for your time.